How's everybody doing today? Fade this out. Ooh, professional fade. There we go. Hey, some days you're good, some days you're not so good. A little rough on the old guitar today. How's everybody doing? So as you've witnessed, some days you got it, some days you don't. All right, so thank you so much for being here, everyone. It is the final broadcast of 2020, and good riddance to 2020, right, guys? Hope everybody is doing well. Things are fine here in New York, as well as can be expected. Just trying to get my windows sorted here. These windows, every time, they always kind of pop out in the back there. Okay. So today, I want to say a few things. First of all, what we have up, of course, all my courses are on sale, as always. Through my website, Jeff-McErlain.com. It was down for a few days. I didn't know. So that was down. So that was a big pain in the butt. So now it's back up. And I just announced yesterday, and a bunch of you guys have already gotten these. I have the link, and Phil has put the link here. I've uploaded 14 background tracks to Bandcamp, all for $10 or $1 each. This is one of those tracks. They're all with a live band. Some of them are from True Fire courses. Some of them are not. But it's all in one spot. And if you want to help out the cause, that's a great way to do it, and you get something in return. You get those, I think, really good background tracks. I'm really happy with them. So, so last broadcast of the year. I'm going to be taking next week off because I've been kind of going at it since February, and Phil as well, just working our butts off to make this thing happen. So thank you to everybody. So the main thing I want to say to everybody is thank you so much for being here. And it's grown, and everybody who's been here every week means a great deal to me. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is kind of how you set up building a solo, or establishing something, how to build a blues solo that I didn't do so well in the beginning, but hey. All right, I'll stop. Okay, the first thing I'm thinking about, all right, let's talk about playing on a background track. Now that, we've got the background tracks and a bunch of you guys picked them up, and I appreciate that. Once again, is we have to remember that these are live, and I was soloing in the studio, but that's how I was soloing that day. So the way these things build. So first thing, if you're playing with background tracks, many of them don't build. A lot of people who post background tracks, myself included, on some of the True Fire things, end up being loops, right? So you play over the same thing over and over. It's to get an idea. But the solo doesn't build, right? There's no interaction between you and the existing members of the band, okay? So that's something to really think about. And I had this conversation with a bunch of friends, and it's an ongoing one, there's some people who can overcome those things, right? They're like I don't want to say this, like the guitar store guys. That sounds horrible. But the guys who can sit down and just, not even guitar store, the guys who can just plow through anything, so much technique and so many, licks and vocabulary that they can just plow through the stuff and always have something to play. I'm not one of those guys, and that's cool. I think it's important to know who you are as a player, and I really enjoy interacting with other people and playing, as opposed to just, putting on the switch and just kind of going. So my point on this is to you as a guitar player. Yeah, I'm sure you felt this way when you're playing through a background track, and as we're discussing one of them right now. You run out of ideas, and you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm repeating myself, or I'm not feeling anything today, or boy, this kind of sucks. This is really hard. One of the main reasons why you have to think about that is I soloed there in the beginning for like 5 minutes, and there was no interaction with the band, right? Because there's no band for real, right? So that is a huge part of why we play music, or at least why I play music. And that is one of the reasons probably when you're playing with a background track, at times you might go, no, this isn't really going anywhere, because it isn't, unless you've kind of worked on, unless you have so many things in your bag that you can just plow through it. But then again, it is not an interactive experience. So I do want to bring that up, because I have this all the time with my students. They're like, I don't know, I kind of ran out of steam. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. When would you solo for 5 minutes in a vacuum like that? All right, so first thing I would say to do on building a solo, if you want to try practicing something, is lay down a 12-bar solo. And the first thing I would recommend or you're going to say you're going to plan your solo, because on a gig, unless it's like a blues gig and you have all night and you can take your time, you're probably going to solo 1 or 2 choruses, 1 or 2 times through the blues, maybe 3. If it's your gig, you can solo as long as you want. But I will say that an audience can get kind of tired of that, and I get tired of that as a player if I'm just going to solo on a blues one after another all night. If there's a singer, I'd rather have a song with a short solo in it or something like that. Okay, so there's a standard blues form, which is called the Aab form. And I tried to do a few of those at the beginning of the track here. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to play the melody. So I'm going to play our straight ahead melody. And I'm going to repeat it, and then I'm going to answer it. So question, question, answer, AAB. 1. Now, 2. Repeat it. Now I'm going to give my musical answer, right? Okay, let's do another one. My answer, right? Okay, so if you're thinking about that, that's a vocal line. I went down to the crossroads, took my rider by my side. Then there's the break, and then went down to the crossroads, took my rider by my side. What's that last line? When people pass me by, right? Forgot the words. So we have the A line, the repeat of the A line, and then we have the B line. Now, very often we hear of things called the call and response, and that would be where someone would sing, went down to the crossroads, took my rider by my side. Then you do the fill. Then it went down, right? Right, so that's the musical response. That would be the call and response. So we could look at building our solo off of the call, right, or the AAB. So this is really cool because it does a number of things. It gets you to play less. It gets you to think about what it is you want to play because you have to repeat it. And then you want to think of an answer. So if you play something and you're like, oh boy, that wasn't very good, you got to repeat that. So sometimes you're like, oh no, that wasn't really good. And then also what it does, practicing this idea, and you could just keep on going through it, like, I'll just do a different one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Now I can repeat that again. Something, right? Like that. Okay, close. Okay, I screwed up because a text came up, Bill giving me the answer to the lyric. Okay, now same idea. And my response, right? Now let that run a little longer. So thinking of those phrases and learning how to build them up gives you your first run through of the blues, right? You're jamming with people and you're like, well, what am I going to play? Well, that's always a great place to start because it gives you plenty of places to go. So you're kind of filling in the melody, right? Okay, so that would be the first thing you practice. So you say, okay, that's all I'm going to do. And, a lot of these live feeds are about how to practice and what to practice. So for me, this was a really big thing, and I find it's very successful with my students, that I just practice the AAB form. Now, to repeat myself, what it does is it makes me listen to where I am in the form of the solo or of the blues, right? So check it out. We're going to shoot for the downbeat. I wish I had a little chart here. Okay. We're going to play over the first 2 bars, and we're going to end on the downbeat of bar 3. All right, then we're going to rest for the rest of bar 3 and bar 4. We go to our next 4-bar phrase. We're going to play over bars 5 and 6 and end on the downbeat of bar 7. 8, we're not going to play, right? 7, rest of 7 and bar 8, we're resting. And then we do our answer on bar 9 and 10, and then we're out on the downbeat of bar 11. So I'll show you. I'm going to play something really simple again. Oop, wrong one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Same lick, right? Yeah, same lick. And there's that kind of downbeat, then answer. It could be the same lick. It almost sounds like there's a great Albert Collins tune, one of his instrumentals, it's kind of just like that, right? He just goes, and he repeats the same line over 3 exact times. So it's knowing where you are in your phrase and feeling that downbeat and being able to get in and out at the right time. So now I'm going to purposely mess up. I'm going to end too early. 2, 3. Right, my phrasing was all weird there too on purpose, but so I'm going to end early. Right, it's hard for me to play, it sounds arrogant, slightly bad, right? You know what I mean? Like, either I can play well or I can overdo it. There's that point where it's the middle, like where you're just not hitting that downbeat. You finish the sentence before it's done. Or musically, if I got finished, it's done. Right? So you're kind of, the cadence of your lick doesn't fall into the beat, and it also doesn't sound like we're speaking, right? So if I finish my sentence, it ends here, as opposed to finish my sentence and it ends here with a question, right? So these firm ideas, and that's what a singer does. So we're really emulating a singer. I think I've kind of beaten that concept into the ground by now, I'm assuming. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then we want to use that as our springboard. So you want to run through that. So what you can do is I'm gonna play a 24-bar solo. I start with the first phrase, right? Same idea. 2, 3, and. 2, 3. Now my same answer. I'll do. May fill it in. So I'm starting to kind of build it up a bit, Right, so that second solo, if I have more time, if I'm going to say I'm going to solo over this track, I start to fill in a little bit more. So it's almost like my call and response. I'm answering my initial lick, and I'm not just blowing over the whole thing just yet, right? So this gives us these levels that we can start to build upon. And that's really important because, like I said, you guys are playing along with these tracks and going, okay, I don't know what to do. I've run out of ideas. I've kind of done everything I can. I've blown all my licks in the first 5 minutes. So what this does, or first 2 minutes. So what we're doing is establishing some new ideas. Now, what's also nice about this, you can start thinking about positions. Okay, so I was kind of, C minor pentatonic over here, basically playing out the minor pentatonic scale. Let's go down here. Same notes, but I'm going to play low. Let's see what I have. 1, 2, 3. Get a trowers in Right, so I'm going to start to work in a different register in the neck and see what I come up with too. And then, so I gain this more freedom to change positions, but still keeping with the idea of these short sentences, complete ideas that I can repeat or repeat almost verbatim with a little bit of musical style. You don't want to play the same like exactly every time. In real life, in practice, it's a good exercise, but then you just start having a little fun with it, maybe change it a hair, but don't play over the last two bars of each phrase. And that is, I found, a super great way for you to get started to work on your phrasing. And then, as I said earlier, it requires you to listen to what the other people are playing. So in this case, it's a background track, but it develops your skill as a guitar player to be able to listen to other guitar players, right? Or listen to the band. So when I'm soloing, I'm not thinking about anything. I just know where I am, and because I've done it so damn much. You know what I mean? So practicing these little phrasing ideas is really important. The next thing you can do, as I said, in your second time through, is to start to fill in maybe where some of those response ideas are, and still keep it simple. And then the third time through, you can start kind of going into ideas. The other thing I would highly recommend you do, and this is totally a standard thing, is to compose a solo. Now, I don't compose solos on gigs. I can't. The idea of doing that is antithetical to the reason why I played guitar. You know, if I'm playing on a blues gig, I'm not composing a solo. That's insanity to me. The point is to getting up there and improvising and living in the moment. And same with jazz. In any rock gig, I never copied the solos unless when I was playing in more rock bands. The only time I'd copy the solo if it was something that was written like kind of perfectly for the tune that becomes part of the tune, like a Comfortably Numb guitar solo by David Gilmour. You have to play that first solo note for note because it's a compositional idea. But on a blues gig, I don't want to hear the same guitar solo. I want to hear somebody go off. But what you could do is write a solo or two, and in doing so, taking your time to craft something, you develop new ideas. So you're not playing your standard licks, or you consciously try not to play your standard licks. You say, okay, I'm going to come up with something different. I'm going to maybe go to this position, and I maybe incorporate one idea, and that might be to hit my natural third on the one chord. So I'm just going to try to work on that, right? So... right? Right? So I took the one little idea. Right, so that's kind of like a melody that I've just kind of created. I'm going to do something really crazy. I'm playing like butt right now, and I haven't played this guitar in a while. I've been playing the old Gibson scale for a while. So, excuses, but I keep on missing stuff, and I'm making me mental. Okay. Right, so I'm feeling that phrase. I might create that idea. I'm going to base it off of maybe adding a melodic idea or a technical idea. So I've built this two thing. I'm going to do the Aab form, and then I'm going to do a call and response, sort of with myself. And then I'll take one idea at a time and start to put it in. And this way, I'm starting to build up the phrasing, I'm starting to listen to what's going on, and just create melodies. Another thing that's really, really good, I see Russ is online again, my old guitar teacher. Hey, Russ, great guitar teacher. Some of these things are things that we talked about many, 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 many years ago in saying, writing a solo. And one thing that Russ, who's online, said to me that I always repeat from ever since then, if it sounds corny, then it's right. So if we're going to write a melody, like, I'm going to improvise. Okay, my point is here. Sometimes I'm going to try to write maybe like a blues melody on the fly. Let's see. Like a head. or something like that. Right, so maybe another melody, right? Wow, man. All right. Hey, having a shitty day on guitar. Happens to the rest of us. All right. So, this is just ways to start to kind of build up a solo, or how do you plan or practice building the framework for a solo. All right. So, any questions, anyone? Let's talk about this. So, once again, Track Your Hearing is off the same collection of tracks that we have on Bandcamp. So anyone wants to check it out, you can get 14 background tracks for $10 with a live band. And yeah, cut them live in the studio. So yeah, they're all good, man. Great players, totally great players. All right. So let's get to some questions. And I want to address me. It sounds like apologies. What I want to be really clear on is sometimes just playing. Like those days where you're on and you're off and you're jumping online and you're like, okay, go on. Now you're good. So there's not a lot of warm-up time. So the cool thing I look about this stuff, when I think about that, let's have a little philosophical discussion about those things. What it shows me, which is totally true, I've been really busy with other things. And then when you don't, it's like anything. If you're a little out of shape and you got to suddenly run that race and you're like, oh no. So you're witnessing that. Something to keep in mind. Something I forget sometimes. All right. So let's see what we have. Some questions here. Okay. Wants to know if simple. I'll just do this. Am I using my clon? Nope. All you're hearing right now. No, wait. On the Strat, I might have been using the clon. The KTR. Right now, this is just the Bloomfield drive by itself. Yeah, I love this amp. So that's that. That's just the thank you, Adam, for the $10. Thank you so much for the gift. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone, once again, who's been here, who's hit the tip jar, who's supported me doing this, and especially, of course, Phil Mingan, who's been so instrumental in this being successful and continuing to be successful. So thanks, guys. I totally appreciate that. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to... that's what stunt doubles are for, yeah, totally. Are you playing to the changes? I'm always playing to the changes. That's a good question. But what I didn't do so much right now when I was just playing it, I was playing to the changes within the pentatonic scale. So I'm always playing to the changes, but I wasn't getting too deep into outlining the chords with, arpeggios and such. I was just playing straight to the changes with inside of minor pentatonic scale, for the most part, to keep the conversation simple. And that's one thing you would want to do, is keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid, right? At the beginning, when you're starting to work on these on your phrasing. Okay. Zita, thank you for also correcting. I put this thing how you corrected. I spelled Stormy Monday wrong. My typing, trying to get these things up. Stromy Monday. So thank you, Zita. I think good tone is essential. Good tone to me is really essential. Okay, one total aside. This is a funny thing. I was talking to my good friend Tracy Farmer, and he had done a gig, because there are still some gigs, that people ask, I think people are saying, Josh Smith asked this question, would you rather have a good amp or a good guitar in a gig? Great amp or a great guitar? I'd rather have the great amp, because if you ever go to a gig and there's a really bad amp, that's really tough. So a halfway decent guitar and a really good amp, that's going to always be my choice. So yeah. Okay. All right, let me get some of these questions. Okay. All right, if you start them off with a question, because I know Phil might have to run out in the middle of this to do some stuff. So just to let you know, if Phil had to, he had some stuff, important stuff he had to take care of. Okay. All right, so see what Phil does for me? It makes my life so much easier. Okay, so building phrases and words comes from the rhythm and feeling, right? Yeah, I'm trying to think maybe what I would sing or what somebody would sing. And a great exercise to get this idea together is to just copy the melody of a famous blues tune. And sometimes you find out most of them are very pentatonic, and they're also very simple. So being able to do that is really important. And I make it, that's part of the exercise. I might even limit stuff altogether. I might just play no faster than an eighth note. Like really just kind of simplify everything I'm doing so I don't get caught up in the chops and the technique, right? So that's a big part of it to me as well. Yeah, so I'm thinking about the melody, and I think about the changes. Let me just talk about when you were talking about the changes a little earlier, is can you talk about replicating a melody as opposed to creating a counter melody? Sure. I'm always thinking about the changes. So if we're playing that C minor pentatonic is C, E flat, F, G, B flat, right? So if I have my one chord, C7, so I have the C, B flat, right in there I have my G, bend that flat 3 a bit, and my root. So there's my C chord. I'm resolving to those notes. When I go to my 4 chord, I'm going to hit some of the chords, so the 4 chords. So 4 chords, F7, F, A, C, E flat. So a lot of those notes, I'm going to find the ones that are in the pentatonic scale and then shoot for those. You can always shoot for the C as the root, and that sounds pretty cool, but that does get a little tiresome after a while. You don't need to do that. Okay. Which elements of the Aab form aligns with the changes? I don't know. I don't look at it that way. Because you're playing on the 1 chord on the A, the first A, and the 4 chord on the second half of the first A. Then you're playing on the 4 chord on the second A. And then the B, you're playing on the 5 chord. So what's interesting, we figured out a little earlier, the same melody can work over all of them. So I look at it less so aligning with the changes in terms of following the Aab form as more hearing a phrase and then ending the phrase on the right spot and melodically placing it. Okay, hopefully that answered the question. What would be your favorite low wattage amp under $1,000? Oof. Wow, there's so many. Okay, when I'm on the road, which is, you can't always, if there's a back line, hey, can you give me a 2-rock? Or I love good Marshalls, but I hate bad Marshalls, because they sound terrible. Or any bad amp sounds terrible. For many years, the back line that you always get would be a JC120, which is the worst amp in the frickin' world for guitar. And then the second amp you would get sometimes was the Red Knob Fender Twin that Robin seems to have gotten some kind of good sound out of it, but I've never gotten a good sound out of those. So what I ask for on the road is the Fender Blues DeVille, because it makes a great clean platform. They all kind of sound the same. They're loud, and they take pedals really well. So I just bring pedals with me, and I use that. So what I would say, under $1,000, oh man, I don't know, I'm not really paying a lot of attention. Depending what kind of tone you want. We talked about the Marshall Origin in a few things I did with Keith. If you want a nice Marshall for really inexpensive, the Origins are really great. If you want a nice Fender, the Fender Blues DeVille, or what's the smaller one, the 112. And I have a Pro Junior, which I've had for years, which has no reverb, but that's a great little gig amp as well. Thank you, the Blues Junior. Right, that's the one I was looking for, so thank you, Richard. Okay, Which overdrive do you recommend? Okay. Boy, there's so many. Depending what the price range is. You know what I really love? I don't, it's not here right now. There's two. If you the Supreme, the Mad Professor Supreme, the Matt Schofield pedal. I have one. It's not on my board right now. I love that pedal. It's a great pedal. My favorite overdrive probably at the moment is the Shanks ODS by Vemram, which is a great pedal. And then the Gladio is awesome. That's a great pedal if you want like a Dumble sounding thing. But a great, you can't go wrong with it pedal. If you want a really affordable one, is like affordable quotation marks. The Full Tone OCD I've found to be a pretty good staple. Just sounds good all the time. Boss OD1. I found the Full Tone, what I like about the Full Tone, and you'll find that some pedals sound better on some amps than other amps. Certain amps don't take pedals that well. Like for instance, sometimes I found like AC30 style amps, and I love AC30s, but putting pedals in front of them can be really hard for them. They don't, because of the front end of the amp, it's very bright, and sometimes I have a hard time settling in with that. The two racks that I have take pedals great. I found old school Marshalls, when you're running them on the clean side, take pedals really well. The Blues DeVille, most Fenders take pedals really well. I just found sometimes that Voxes can be a little picky. And I found that the Shanks goes great with everything, and I found the Supreme goes really well with everything, and I found the Full Tone goes really well with everything. Okay. Okay. Go back here for a second. Ba-ba-ba-ba. All right, so you love the Gladio. Phil loves the Gladio. It's a great pedal, yeah. And he just put out a new one, like just the left side. So I'm looking forward to that. That's a really awesome pedal too. Yeah, like Phil was telling me, the Deluxe Reverb. Yeah, Deluxe Reverb loves pedals. Most Fenders do. I found have been really kind of good. There's so many good pedals, guys. There's like a million great pedals. And you find the ones that just work really, really well with you. People talking about the tube screamers. Tube screamers are interesting because at a low volume, like they're just good. In my mind, they're the best when you're boosting an amp. When you're running it as an overdrive itself, they've got that clean, distorted mix. So if you're running an amp that's already overdriven, they're awesome. But if you're running a clean platform and you want to use something like that, I find them to be sort of not my favorite. Those are all personal opinions. Everyone's got them. Okay. Would you stay strictly, this is from Joe Pickup, would you stay strictly pentatonic or throw in some half steps and 12-bar blues depending on the progression? Oh, yeah. Like today I was just talking, I don't recognize your name, and thank you for being here. Hello. Welcome. I talk a lot about making the chord changes. Today I wasn't really talking too much about making the chord changes, just talking about simple ways to develop your phrasing. But yeah, I'm always thinking about the chord. So if you're thinking about A7, if you're playing C7 to A7, right? You're going to have that change right there. The tritone. So yeah, I'm definitely always thinking about the chord, what notes you can find there, adding in chromaticism. So no, I wouldn't consider myself a pentatonic player. Well, let me put it this way. Everything I do is based from pentatonic, but I look at, because that's kind of like home base, the blues, but no, absolutely thinking about making the chord changes, outlining the sounds of the stuff, and then adding in chromaticism to spice it up, to extend the resolution to the chord tone. All right. Do you have any fuzz that you can recommend at a reasonable price? Yeah, sure. The Dunlop fuzzes are really good. Like the mini fuzz, Dunlop mini fuzz, those sound great. Like I don't know how much they cost. They're not very expensive at all. I mean, the big fuzz faces are cool, but they're huge. And the mini fuzz I found to be really nice, and those are really reasonable. So the Dunlop stuff is cool. I had an Eric Johnson one. It was very spitty, which is the way he defines it. And the one I liked, I think it was the red one. I like the red one and the blue one. Then there's the thing about silicone fuzzes and germanium, depending on temperature. So yada yada. But those are good inexpensive ones. Are the Dunlop. Those are great. Um, the Metal Zone. What is the cheapest guitar you've played and liked? Uh, you know, some of the the lower line Fenders are great. You know, some of the ones that are made in Mexico, and they have some of the ones that are made in, I guess, China or Korea. Those are good too. But yeah, the guitars can be very. Uh, Sometimes you find a really good one. So I remember some of those Road Warrens. Well, those are a little more expensive now, but just the lower line Fenders are great. Now, the big difference is now everything is sort of CNC routed, like computerized routing. So it's not like it was when I was a kid, and a cheap guitar was a cheap guitar. Like it just was no fun to play. Wouldn't stay in tune, or played horribly, and terrible fretwork and all that. But the new Fenders are great. The inexpensive PRSs are spectacular. Yeah, those kind of things. I've never been so crazy about the lesser expensive like Epiphones, like the really inexpensive ones. Um, I just think that guitar construction is a little more expensive, whereas I think a Fender style bolt-on is fairly easy to, I don't want to say get right, but easier. Okay, being political. um, you ever in those days where you seem to sound like crap no matter what what you play or what effect you use? Hey, are you saying that? Yeah, like today. Hell yeah. Like, I felt pretty good. I warmed up a little bit, and then the camera rolled, and I was like, you know, I haven't played that guitar in a little bit. All those weird things. And I find there's a bunch of things that if I feel like I'm playing just like crap, I will do a bunch of things. The first thing I'll do is I'll just ride with it and say, today's just not one of those days. Now, if you're on the road, right, with the band, those things become less and less because you're kind of in shape. You're like in fighting shape. And I've talked to a number of my friends about this who are normally touring guys, and they're like, oh man, sometimes they use like 11s and they've gone to lighter gauge strings, right now because there's no gigs. So they're not really, gone to 10 and a half just to make things easier. Um, so I find, yeah, part of the consistency is that when you're on the road, you develop that real consistency, which is always my favorite part about being on the road, is after like 4 or 5 gigs, you're like, hell yeah, here it is. Okay, I'm going on stage. I feel confident. Um, Here, like, I find usually the days I sound like crap are usually because I haven't really been practicing. Or the days that you're just playing and you just like, all right, it's just not really happening today. So what I do is I just let it go and say, okay, that's just the way today is. And I'm not going to beat myself up about sounding like crap because I think I sounded okay yesterday. And then work on something else. Maybe work on some chords, or unplug the guitar from the amplifier and just play the guitar by itself. I do that all the time. And, yes, these are pretty nice amps. And some days I just wake up going, everything sounds like crap, which is, of course, ridiculous. So what I'll just do in those days is I'll just unplug the guitar and just play acoustically. And then I'll also work, like I said, things that are not dependent upon my technique or my flow that day. Okay. Hope that helps. Um, um, Are you guys talking about pickups? Any favorite boutique pickups? Sure. Well, you guys know I'm these are throwbacks. I think they are my favorite humbucker, and they make great Strat pickups too. I've got them in there, but um, they're pricey, but I love them. I think they made this guitar completely come to life. And any guitar I've had them in, they've really any guitar I put them in, they've brought to life. So throwbacks, um, they're great. Yeah, throwback pickups. Those are my favorite boutique pickups that I've had experience with. There's other great companies. Lawler makes great stuff. Bare Knuckle. There's Whiz pickups. There's Wolf Tone. There's a million. My experience, I know the guys there, really great guys, friends of mine. They make great stuff. So throwback, I would say, if you want to upgrade your guitar, and you got a nice guitar, but something's not quite right, that's a relatively inexpensive way before getting a new guitar. All right. Yeah, like, oh, the Squires, talking about Squires. I have a Squire bass, and I love it. I don't play bass, but well, I'm not going to buy an expensive bass. So when some of these background tracks I'll play bass on, I'll um I'll just play it on the Squire, just a cheap Squire jazz bass that I bought. All right. Earl Furry, what's up, man? Why are jazz picks such as the Black Eyes so much smaller than a standard pick like a Dunlop pick? Because they make them that way. I don't know. Um, I don't know. It's a good question. I think throughout history, some of the picks came with different sizes. Guitar picks or like mandolin picks were smaller, if not mistaken. I like them better. I feel like it's got a little more control over them. I like them because I got the pointy tip, and that helps me play faster. Yeah, that's one of my things. It's just, when I was trying to get into playing faster, when I watched guys Eric Johnson, and he's playing a Jazz 3, and you start playing, and you're like, oh, so there's much more surface area than a regular size pick. And this is a little bigger than a Jazz 3, which I like because the Jazz 3 I was having a hard time holding on to, and I just like the way they sound. It's the Black Ice. Um, do pickups make a not so well guitar, or does the player do that? Okay, Jason Carter. Do good pickups made guitars sound good, or does the player do that? You need to know what to look for when you got a guitar. Like if something to you draws you to the guitar. If the guitar is a piece of junk, sometimes the pickups won't make too much of a difference. Meaning, like if you're strumming it and it's kind of dead and it just isn't very resonant. Some people will argue that the wood has nothing to do with the sound of the guitar. I think that's crazy. I think that's insane. Some people say that they argue that since it's magnetically picking up the string, the wood has nothing to do with the guitar. Yeah, no, I think that's completely wrong. If you start getting into really high output pickups or like EMGs with the battery in it and things like that, those active pickups, I think that's where the pickup will take over and make the guitar, and that's where the sound's kind of coming from primarily. But if you're talking about an old school kind of pickup, magnetic one, I think a good guitar will start. It's always in your hands. So the pickup can make a big difference. So for instance, when I got this, hold on, don't you hate when your strap gets caught on something? All right, so this is my newer Tuttle, and I just kind of messed with some pickups and I put in some throwbacks. And sometimes it's about finding the right pickup for the guitar. Right? So, I kind of moved. I had the original pickups in here, which are really cool, but there was something that didn't resonate with me. I wanted the guitar to be a little different, so I changed the pickups. And I knew the guitar was acoustically great, as are all of Michael's guitars. And so I have enough experience to go, yeah, there's something not in this set of pickups. So let me try something else. So for instance, if you kind of get a little kind of, I say, better when your ears develop for these things, I knew acoustically this guitar was really good. But since the body construction I was playing, I'm like, this sounds really good. And actually, interesting enough, Robin used this on his new record. I sent it to him first before I got it, and he really liked it. He goes, but there's something, it's kind of lacking some mids. And when I got it, so this guitar, I think, just structurally isn't very mid-heavy because it's maple and ash. So the pickups, this throwbacks that I had, this is the Peter Green set that I had in my closet because I took it out of another guitar that I had sold. And I know that's more of a mid-forward pickup. So it was a nice match because the guitar to me is super resonant, but not super mid-forward as would be alder and rosewood, generally speaking. This is ash and maple. So generally, these are huge generalizations. Has a bit more of a scoop, and I wanted to fill in a little bit more of that scoop. And I knew these pickups that I had actually were more mid-forward, and it worked out really well. So that was good, you know. And that's some things that happen. Sometimes you just have the wrong pickup for the guitar. Gets really super cork sniffy. So your easiest, oh yeah, Jeffrey Reed. Hey man, what's going on, Jeff? These are the throwback Peter Greens. I don't have the reverse wired in this, just the standard. And for any of you nerds out there, I took off the treble bleed because sometimes I don't like those. I might experiment with the neck pickup in this one because, you know, when you roll back your volume, it can kind of darken up a little bit. And maybe it darkens up a little too much on the neck on this one. So you can start to, I've got nerdy friends that you can put the right amount of cap and resistor across the pot for your treble bleed. What a treble bleed is when you roll back the volume, it stays bright, whereas you notice it gets a little dark. Not bad. But whenever you have a humbucker in the neck, you know, there's always that kind of battle. So I might actually lower it a little bit. I'm still experimenting, but the bridge, you know. It's killer. And the neck is great. So I might just drop the pickup down a little bit to get a little less pull on it. Other crazy things you can do, you can maybe, I got to call the guys at Throwback, don't let me know. You can raise your pull pieces up and that actually adds a little bit more treble. I don't know. I got to find out. There's things you can do when you start getting into the whole cork sniffy thing. Also, if you go back, and I did the video here and I did the video with Tim Pierce and dialing in your Les Paul, you know, so I make sure that the neck pickup is the brighter of the two. So right now, for this, it's a little dark. For this guitar, it's the hair. So I might roll back that mid and bass. Let's see what we got. See what I mean? So just by tweaking my amp a little bit, I rolled back that frequency that was making it a little woolly. So let's see what else we got. So I just brought back the bass. See what I mean? So yeah, you guys are saying this is a great sounding guitar. This is a great sounding guitar. I'm overjoyed with this guitar. It's maybe one of my favorite Tuttles. I think it's my favorite one that I've gotten from Michael, and that's saying a lot. Love this guitar. And I got a flatter radius, so I wanted something a little more shreddy, going back to the old days. But yeah, Brad, Roman Legion, this is totally cork sniffing. Totally cork sniffing. You know, and each guitar is its own thing. You know, you can say like, this Strat is generally more mid-scooped or this or that, you know. And then you pick up an ash and maple Strat and it's super mid-rangey. You know, it's a per guitar thing. But I think we talked about this. The first thing I'll look for when I strum a guitar is if it's vibrating. You know, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I did some guitar shopping with my friend Jason Laughlin, and we looked at some broadcasters, you know, and 52 tellies and all these black cards, like real ones. And some of them you play it, you're like, yeah, nope, I wouldn't. It's just a guitar. You know, some of them are magic, but not all of them are great. So the first thing you do is you strum it, and if the guitar is kind of doing its thing, like vibrating, then that's where I start. So I play the guitar acoustically first. So when I pluck this high E string, I'm feeling it throughout the body. And when I pluck the B string, I'm definitely feeling it throughout the body. So start with the B string, because if you got like 8s on, you got really light strings, the high E string might not be pushing the body that much. But I feel it all the way through the guitar, and that's the first thing I look for. That and is if it's too heavy. I mean, heavy guitars can sound good, but I just can't play them anymore, you know. Not walking around with a 9.5-pound guitar anymore. Forget it. Okay. A lot of questions. Do I maintain and set up my own guitars? Yes, absolutely do. Yeah. I don't do fret jobs, anything major, but yeah, I mean, every guitar player should know how to do that. It's really not that hard. You got to go out of your way to screw up your guitar. A lot of great videos. I think I learned a lot from the Dan Erlewine book. Tons of videos on YouTube. I was lucky enough when I was younger to work at a guitar store, and one of the guys would just show me how to set up the guitars, and I started setting up people's guitars. I do a lot of things by feel. A lot of guys are using calipers and this and that. I don't sometimes do that. Like, if I just sometimes end up going by the feel on my hand if it feels good. But I'll start with like a radius thing and match it a little bit. In terms of neck relief, I like I like a fairly straight neck though, like just a touch of relief, but pretty straight. And when you get a really well fretted guitar and made guitar like Michael's are, I've never really had any fretting out issues. Even with like a 7 1/4, of course you have to have the action a little higher, but his work is so great that I don't really have a problem with it fretting out. Okay. Any advice on tendinitis? Last time you said you had it. You ever tried a Strandberg? It could help. Yeah. I'm just smiling about the Strandberg. I'm fairly traditional in the way the guitar looks, So ergonomically, I know they're cooler, but for me, they're not, my problems with tendonitis are not that bad that I really have to go to do something like that changes my, feeling on guitars, and the thing that excites me to play the guitar like that is just badass, and it makes me want to play the thing. When I look at something like a Strandberg or the Kleins, which are really cool, for me, they look, they're this modern thing, and like Tosin the Bossy and those guys, amazing, but for me, I just love, it's all about, Gilmour and Page and Beck and Clapton. So that's that. But tendinitis, the main thing, guys, is to just really warm up and not overdo it. I find when I hurt myself, which I had done a few weeks ago, and this is one of the reasons why I'm, we talk about the top being a little sloppy, because I've been taking it super easy, because I was filming some stuff with Brett Papa. Of course, it'll be out this second week of January. My hand started hurting because I was not on my game, and I'm just doing these performances all day and filming videos and these things. And then after a little while, I was like, oh man. And then once you get that feeling in your hand, like, oh man, for me, that means it's already too late. So the next few days were really rough and painful. And then I'm taking like, anti-inflammatories, just over the counter stuff, like naproxen. So I'll just make sure I stretch, and then I'll just warm up. And my hands are feeling really good. I'm very fortunate in my tendinitis when I get those hand pains. They don't really stick around too long, more than a week, because I feel like I know how to do it. If you guys, hold on, I gotta walk off camera. Hold on, I gotta show you this. Hold on one sec. Dead air, hold on. I know. I'm talking though. Hold on. All right, because it's live. This is super helpful to me. All right, this is the crazy looking thing. It's called a Rolio. And my friend, Dr. Mike Ludovico in California, oh my God, something just San Mateo, chiropractor, great friend of mine, Dr. Michael Ludovico, best chiropractor I've ever been to, and one of my best friends ever, best man at his wedding and that kind of stuff. So, Dr. Michael Ludovico, San Mateo, California. So this. Check it out. You put your arm through it. This is crazy, and it really loosens up the forearm. It hurts like hell when you do it. So it's just a way you try to rub those muscles out, and you get that scar tissue that develops from playing a lot. So you just kind of roll your arm through this thing. You can test the tension, and then you find that spot, and you just work the crap out of it. It really hurts. And this thing has been great. I almost wish you could make it go tighter. So sometimes I actually just push on it. But this thing has been a real lifesaver, I gotta say. I'll put a link to it coming up when we do. I got it in Amazon. I forget how much it is, but I don't care. It was worth it. I do it on both arms, and it really loosens up my forearm. So if you're having tendinitis issues, sometimes I get like nerve entrapment because I slouch and all this kind of crap. Playing guitar all day, this has been really helpful, and I use it every day. just to warm up. Sometimes I'm playing, or like, you start playing, and you're like, oh, my hands are kind of tight. Just kind of do that for a while. So that's been really helpful for 10 nights. That's like one thing I would say, buy yourself the Christmas present if you're having a little bit of a problem. It made a huge difference for me. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. Oh, and just stretching, and then taking your time. There's no rush. There's no gigs. You're not on the gig. Remembering to take breaks. If you have tendonitis, take lots of breaks. And like I said, I know what's going on. When I started playing today, I'm like, having a hard time because I've been recovering a little bit. So, all right. So how do I get back into it? Scales. Practice nice and slowly. Take my time. Make sure I'm warmed up. Never play with cold hands if you can avoid it. And this thing has been awesome. Okay. Wow. More and more people jumping in. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I got see some new names. I really appreciate it. And I'll just take this 1 minute to say thank you for everybody who's coming here and helping build a channel. It's been such an amazing, for such a crappy year. And I don't know, but I try to have this place not be the bummer about the year, but the people who lost, I've got some friends who are really sick. So it's been great. I look forward to this, and it's been great. It's been a real kind of distraction, hopefully, for everybody. And we have a good time just talking about hanging out and playing guitar. So everybody's here. Thank you so much, and thank you. Everybody's been really helpful. Keith over at 5 Watt World, and of course Phil Mingan, and everyone here whose names I could go through. But all you guys, I appreciate it. All right, so do I like rosewood or maple? Yeah, both. I found the maple's a little rougher on my fingertips, if that makes any sense. I've talked about other guys, like Matt Schofield tells me the same thing. He says he can't play maple boards for the most part because they rip apart his fingertips. I don't have that problem, but I've noticed, I was like, ooh, man, they're a little rougher. I don't know why. These are 6105 frets, really high, so I'm not really touching the fingerboard at all. I like really big frets, and I just find the rosewood a little easier on my fingers. I mean, if somebody said to me, would you like a maple or rosewood board, I'd probably go with rosewood ultimately, but since I have a few, I decided to get one with maple because I didn't have a guitar with maple. But Van Halen, I wanted something like that kind of a guitar, the Super Strat. Growing up, I played Charvels and Jacksons, and I had a ton of hair. I had hair, period. A ton of hair. And I was playing Charvels and Jacksons, and I kind of missed some of that. So I went in this other direction. So that's why I had Michael make me this with a 12-inch radius. It's an 840 thickness neck and big frets. So kind of a winner. He knocked it out of the park as usual. Oh, come on, Keith. Thank you for the tip, Keith. You don't have to do. Keith sent me a box of whoopie pies, a huge box of mini whoopie pies, and those are, if anybody knows, I didn't know anything about whoopie pies. They're from Maine. And it was awesome. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate that. And Phil sent me this amazing cable by Sensonoid. This is awesome. Thanks, Phil. You guys got your stuff coming. All right, so I'm just blabbing. Is there a okay, this is from David Harder. Why is it common to see a humbucker in the bridge of a Strat, but not in a Telly? Is it more common to see a humbucker in the neck? Makes sense. Yeah, no, it's a great question. That's a really great question. Here's the general theory that people go by, and I'm just repeating stuff that I've heard. If we talk about the humbucker in the bridge, that's kind of Eddie who started that. And I know Halsworth did that, but I think prior to those guys, maybe some other people did it. But when you listen to Eddie play or talk about the stuff, Eddie had always said, I wanted the tremolo, but I wanted it to sound like a Les Paul. And so what I just did was I dug out a hole in my guitar with a chisel and took the pickup out of my Les Paul and put it in. And this was born. You know what I mean? Brett Pop in the house. Brett, you're my hero as well. All right, we'll get to talking about Brett Pop in a second too. So that's the main thing. So the reason for that was there's more output on the humbucker pickup. Also, when you're, before noiseless pickups in the 70s and 80s and all that, and I still prefer the sound of noisy pickups to noiseless. The humbucker was quiet, so you could flip to that, and this is the heavier guitar sound, and it sounds like Eddie, and people started jumping on that. And then Grover Jackson made this stuff, and these things started growing. So Jackson, and that's kind of really where it came from. Charvel and Jackson and Eddie Van Halen. All right. So my telly guy friends are always saying, so when you're playing a telly, we have another Michael Tuttle matching kind of. Right? They're a heavier pickup. They usually have the bottom, and you've got this. People say this is the telly lore that you have this bridge, and it kind of creates a bigger magnetic field. Is this true? I don't really know, but it seems to make sense. I'll buy it, because tellies generally sound bigger in the bridge than a Stratocaster. That's why people love tellies so much. To me, the neck of a Stratocaster is the shit, and the neck of a telly isn't so much. So people sometimes will put a hardtail on a Strat, right? So that's the same kind of idea at that point, but you're still not getting. Apparently, some people say that like this creates this magnetic thing. My old friend Greg Veroviov, I haven't spoken to Greg in a while, he was telling me about that, his whole theory on this stuff, which was really cool, and I think it made a lot of sense to me. So when you're playing with a Strat, you also don't have the through the back and through the body, so it sounds different. It's a different construction, and I think in that point it makes the bridge less big. That's the theory that most people run on, and I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Do you own a Gretsch, and have you ever played them? I don't own a Gretsch. I've played them, and they're really cool, but they're not for me. They are just not my cup of tea. Stock. First of all, you're talking about like the Country Gentlemen. They're freaking huge, and very often they have very low frets, and they're just not the way I play guitar. But they sound awesome, and Jason Laughlin, who just did a thing for a 5-watt world. Go check out my great friend Jason. He plays all his Chet Atkins stuff on a Gretsch. So, and David Gilmour plays a Gretsch, the solid body ones. So they've never been my bag. I try to be selective about the guitars I play, in the sense of I don't really want guitars sitting around that I don't play, and I could just see having a big Gretsch and strumming it a little bit and then going, nope, I'm out. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Brett Papa. Yes. So Brett in the house. My good friend Brett. Brett and I have done a course together, and it's taken forever. We started it pre-COVID, and I was at Brett's house. And Brett is. You guys are familiar with Brett, who has been on my little interview show here. Brett is totally awesome, and the cool thing that happened, unfortunately, with COVID, which is terrible, was that we had a chance to review some of the stuff I'd done. And to Brett's really, he's such a generous guy. His credit, he said, after doing all your live feeds, you teach better than you did. So let's redo some of the stuff. So I'm really excited about some of the stuff I filmed. And to his credit, I sent him some stuff. He's like, okay, you can play that better. So I love Brett for that, because he calls me out on this. So that we're going to have a course that's coming out in the January 8th, tentatively. And it's on Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, and David Gilmour. And what it is, it's kind of like my heroes, people I look as British blues guys. And, I hate to use the word hacks, but like certain things that I learned from these guys, if I want to, that have made it into my playing. There's a lot of similarities between the way they play, though you may not hear a similarity between Gilmour and Clapton. But they approach, it's still from a blues background. And the stuff I learned from them, and ideas that I stole from them, and how they're kind of the tone, and I'm really having fun with it. I think it's going to be great. So it's like that. Working on that with Brett. That should be out the 8th, if all goes well. If it doesn't go well, it's my fault, because these things take a while to put together. Okay, any thoughts on the Fishman Fluence pickups? I know the guys Fishman. I've not played them myself. Greg Koch. Yeah, I'm sorry, Greg, if I'm not pronouncing your name right. I know Greg. He loves them. Um, they sound great, from what I've heard. Um, I know they have that little charger thing, uh, which kind of freaks me out. On on a just a nerdy guitar guy. I get pretty traditional, but I have been looking into an Axe FX FM3 because I do miss having some high gain stuff, and that could be kind of fun. We'll see. Um, hey Frank Gladden, hey, what's up, man? How are you? What do you think of the humbucker single configurations? Okay, well this gets super nerdy. I love it, but they can be a little weird because humbuckers work best with a 250k pot, no 500k pot generally speaking, and singles work best with a 250k pot. So sometimes the switching can be a little weird in terms of the sound of the way the pot reacts with the pickup. So sometimes when you have a 500k pot on a Strat pickup, it can be very bright in a way that I don't want it to be. So there's some very smart people out there that sometimes there's dual pots, and some companies have taken care of with like a little bit of a switching system where it goes to where they put a capacitor on it that changes it. So if you're just wiring it up, and I think a lot of these companies do it stacked now, like probably like Charvel. I know the Guthrie Govan guitar's got all this switching stuff in it, and that's there's all this stuff. So I'm assuming they're taking care of that. And Brett Papa and I had the same conversation. Oh, my good friend David Hamburger calling. Oh, check out David Hamburger on Fretboard Confidential. All right. So I would definitely check that out. And right, okay, here we go. Yeah, 5 Watt World. This is Keith saying he's rewiring with the stacked 250, 500K pots, and you report back. Brett Pop and I, if Brett's still here, say hi, Brett, had this conversation like, how come nobody ever told me about this before? Yeah, and so there is a pot that you can do that will do that, and that's the only thing I find a little weird about the two, about if you put them with the same pickup. The singles and the humbuckers, and you mix them and you don't take care of that, the neck and the singles can be very bright and very spanky. And if you go the other way, then your humbucker's too dark. So there you go. All right. So, wow, everybody's still hanging out. I mean, wow, we're running super late. Any more questions? I will. Oh, wow, everybody's hitting the super chat. 5 Watt World. Jason Carter, thank you so much. Who else did? I'm trying to see this. Yep, Jason, right? Chad, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. I really, really appreciate it. It's awesome. Thank you. And like I said, you want to, when you want to. I have background tracks that I just loaded up to Bandcamp. You guys might dig those. 14 of them, all with a real band. Wait, one isn't with a real band. One. And the reason why I put that on there was it was the track I used for the Premier Guitar Peter Green thing, because I wanted to copy that If You Be My Baby from Live at the Shrine. So I threw that on there, but everything, all the other 13 are done with a real band in the studio. So that should be fun. What is the wattage of my Marshall Origin? 20 watts. It's great. I can't say just for the money it's good. It's just a good little amp. Does it hold up to my 100 watt? Well, I'm not going to bring that to a gig. And yeah, like I find it really kind of does hold up in many ways. Whoa. Wait. Okay. Well, thank you, Skydog. Very, very much. Being very generous. Thank you. Wow. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you. You guys are humbled. Thank you. I'll miss you over here. Thank you. Through the aux, which I'm having to do a lot, because somebody asked a little earlier, how loud am I playing? I'm not. There's no volume coming out of my speaker at all. It's all from the aux, because I live in New York, and I'm running everything through studio monitors, right? Just to have a little setup here. There's just monitors. I'm running through that. So interestingly enough, I wish I could change amps and all that kind of stuff, um, uh, but I can't. The way this is dialed in, I'm getting verklempt. I am. Um, the Origin definitely gives us a run for the money for the super lead. It really does. Do the aux, and at home, they both sound great. They both sound really great. But we did the Beano thing with Keith at 5 Watt World, the Beano tone. That was actually, honestly, I got a really convincing Beano tone out of that amp. And it's 300, 400 bucks for the 20 watt combo, 500, 400 something bucks. Totally worthwhile. And then people say to me, would I have bought the combo or the head? I would. My only thing is I wish it had a 12-inch speaker. It's got a 10-inch. Makes it light and small, but a 12-inch would be the bomb. So those are really good. And the I don't have one, but I've heard great stuff about the Marshall Studio Classic or Studio Vintage, the 20 watt Plexi. Every clip I've just been like, man, that sounds great. And when my course comes out with Brett Papa, I've used on purpose on a lot of the course, I use the Origin just because people are like, oh, well, you're using this and you're playing through an old Marshall. And I'm like, no, it's an Origin. It's in your hands and how you attack it, but it's a Marshall. It sounds great. Yeah, okay, Joe Pickup. I have a Marshall DSL 40. I can't turn it up to the point where it sounds as good as it should due to the family and neighbors. Would an aux work for that? Would it be worth going for it? No. Okay? No. The aux for me, and it is an amazing item, and maybe, Brett's using them, he could chime in. I don't really use the aux as an attenuator because it's just physics, man. The attenuator, and anytime I use an attenuator, I need the amp. I can only knock it down a little bit. You start going down to bedroom volumes with an attenuator, I don't love it. I don't love the way that sounds. But what I'm doing is running this into recording software. So I'm using the SPDIF out, and I'm going into this. So I'm using the cabinet simulators. So what you're hearing is not a real you're not hearing real speakers at all. You're hearing just this fake cabinet going on. So I wouldn't recommend it for that. Now, Phil, our moderator with the bestest, has the Fryette power station, which is super cool because that is a load box, and then it also has amp volume. So it has a power section, so you could turn it back up. So crank your amp up, turn it back down. Right, so you run your DSL at full into this thing, the power station, and then you can adjust the volume of that overall. That's cool, but I will be completely honest. If you're not pushing the speaker a little bit, it's never going to sound great. Yeah, never going to sound great. Just, it's physics because you're not moving that speaker, which is designed to be loud. So what do I recommend? Honestly, I play through plugins a lot at home. Or I put the amp at a low volume, or I'll just use pedals. So I'll run clean and use some pedals. Because I think that actually sounds better than cranking the amp. So the 2-Rock sounds killer right now because, it would be ear-blisteringly loud at my house. I couldn't sit with the volume, so I turned it so far down. Right? But to get that kind of, the amp to sing like that, it'd be just way too loud. So I can play the amp clean, and I would use pedals, and that works great. Top load telly. Yeah, thank you very much. He said, just get a Spark. I agree with you 100%. The Spark is amazing, as is the Katana Air. You can play your music through it. Those are great. I know a bunch of my students have them. I would love to get one if I were going to use it. But I play through plugins because then I can turn the volume up. I can adjust anything at all times. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, if I'm up too late or 1 o'clock, I'm playing at television volume. And nobody bothers me because it's just like, yeah, I can put down low, but they feel better than a real amp. And then the other thing, there's a strictly pragmatic thing. Frank Gladden, thank you so much, Frank, for the top chat. Thank you so much, Frank. Really appreciate it. Have a great Christmas, Frank. Thank you. So what I would do, I got a little distracted there for one sec. Oh yeah. Also, I run this for the show because it sounds great. But if you're cranking your amp, you got to use your tubes up over a period of time. So if I'm just sitting at home, just kind of practicing, I'm not running my Marshall at like 8 because it's still running super hard, and I'm gonna wear out my tubes, and just so I can plug it in, and I save it for recording, and I save it for the live show because it sounds so good, and that's what I do here. But primarily at home, um, I run through a very, really, really. There's two things that I use as a plugin. See you, Keith. See you, Keith. Um, uh, okay, so I'm listening through studio monitors, and if you want to practice at home, and you can even use the amps in GarageBand. You would just need an interface. So there's a bunch of ways you can go. But if you want the solve all everything, I would say the Spark or the Katana Air. You can run everything. You can play your music off your iPhone through Bluetooth, and it comes through the jam tracks available on Bandcamp. You can run your jam tracks through the Spark and just jam along with that, and everything's all included, and it's this big. So those are great. The Boss Katana Air is the same thing, and you got that great. You don't have any cables with that. You got a wireless unit. So all those are really. I think those are the better things if you're talking about practicing at home and wanting everything to kind of be a more satisfying experience. So then people often say, I'll just keep on blabbing about this stuff for a minute. Like even when you run, say, like the Marshall at 5 watts, which you can do, 5 watts is freaking loud. This is a 40 watt. This is blisteringly loud. This is 100 watt. This is 100 watts. So without the aux, and for like recording and these kind of things, you really, I don't want to say, like this thing was like a paperweight, the Marshall, for ages because you play through it and you can't get it to do what it's supposed to do. All right. Okay, once again, everyone, I want to say thank you so much for being here, hanging out late today. I want to wish everybody a really happy holiday, and hopefully, a great New Year. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm taking some time off. And a happy New Year, and hope this year kind of gets better for everyone. A rough year for everybody. But what I do want to say is that as much as I can say it, I appreciate everybody being here. It's been great. Everybody has been awesome. The support you've shown me is really humbling, and I'm so glad that we will be moving forward into next year, just hanging out, talking about guitar. Look for some great stuff coming up. We got the Brett Papa course coming out. I'm working on a kind of a subscription channel where it's just lessons, and you can join that. And I do want to address everybody. Some people have contacted me for private lessons, and I've dropped the ball significantly because a lot started happening at once, and my organizational skills need a lot of work, and technology, and finding things in spam folders and all that. So I'm trying to catch up with everybody, and I appreciate it, and please be patient, and it's nothing personal if you haven't heard from me. Trying to get a bunch of things done at once. So you guys are the best. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Thank you so much to Phil Mingan, who is here every week, helping me do this, bugging me. What do you got to talk about tomorrow? He's been instrumental in this happening. To make everything run smoother. He has been really great. And everybody too, Michael Cope, S.E. Nesbitt. It's not like at the Oscars. No, I wouldn't be here for you people, But it's totally true. Boy, I could run through all the names. Jason Carter. I'm going to run through a bunch. Some of the new guys. Sam Stamos, great. Hey, Sam. Of course, Keith at 5 Watt World, who's been great. David Harder, hello. What's going on? Joe Pickup, thank you for joining. Chad, thank you for the joining and the top chat. Frank Gladden. Matt Gibson, what's going on all the way from Australia? Graham Ross. I'm going to forget people. I'm just trying to run through this. Bro. Doing all the shout outs. All right. I apologize if I'm missing anyone. And thank you to everyone who's picked up the jam tracks. They were a ton of fun. Just a real quick thing on the jam tracks, and then I'll shut up and go. It is Rodney Howard on drums, he plays guitar, he plays drums forever with Avril Lavigne, and he was on a bunch of records when my old band called Flytrap. I've been friends with Rodney forever. Great drummer, and if you watch any Avril Lavigne video for the past 20 years, he's her drummer. Ben Zwirin on bass, who's just a great New York bass player, and Todd Caldwell on keyboards. So if you want to see Todd Caldwell play, check out David Grissom, and I was at National Sawdust, and I was a curator at this National Sawdust, which is a performance space, and I curated for a year there. And I brought in David and Robin, did a modern blues thing. So if you want to see Todd Caldwell play with David Grissom and me, go out there and check it out. All right, so thanks everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you on the flip side, and hopefully everything will miraculously just get better. But once again, thank you everyone. I really appreciate it.